Thinking aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove. This is part 2 of our 3-part series on creativity, flow, and the evolving self. With me is Professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi of the Department of Psychology at the University of Chicago, where he is the former chairman. He's the author of numerous books, including the bestseller Flow, which we'll be talking about during this half hour, and also the evolving self and creativity. Welcome, Mihaly.
Thank you.
It's good to be back with you again. Flow is a fascinating concept, and many, many people have resonated to that book and to your writing, because I think it deals with something everyone's interested in: human happiness, passion, pleasure, what makes life itself worth living. And you've sort of encapsulated all of that in the notion of flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was lucky to stumble on that on this concept, which all of us know about its existence. We all have experienced it one time or the other, but psychology was not very quick on picking up on that, being preoccupied mostly with pathology, with what's wrong with the human condition. But I had seen enough problems during World War II as a child. I'd seen the disintegration of cultures and people living unhappy lives and doing more harm to each other than good. And I was trying to understand whether there was more to life than that. You know, whether is this all there is? You know, war and poverty and inhumanity. And I knew that there must be something different because I had experienced it, but there was no good way to talk about it. There was no terminology, there was no theory to explain what is that part of life which is worth living. And I was searching for that, and it was as a graduate student when I started studying artists that I began to notice the similarity in their behavior when they became lost in the process of creating a work of art, and they were so concentrated and focused and so involved and would not put down their brush for anything. It was just too important for them to continue. And I tried to understand, okay, well, this is a great, it seems that these people are really living to the fullest of their potential during these periods. Now, is there any other way of experiencing this type of feeling? And at that point I decided to study other individuals who are not creative in the sense of being artists and so forth, but who seem to spend long periods of time doing things for which they get no usual rewards like money or fame or recognition. And so I started looking at rock climbers, interviewing rock climbers, interviewing chess players, dancers, composers of music, athletes of different kind, who seemed to derive a great deal of satisfaction from what they were doing, and not from the results of what they were doing. They weren't getting great rewards except the activity itself. And it was this common, what was so surprising is that people in these greatly different activities, chess and rock climbing and art and music, they describe how they feel when they are really involved in what they're doing and enjoying it. They describe it in very similar ways. And this gave me the idea that, well, all of us have the potential to experience these. Some of us will experience it through sports, some through art, some through some other activity like chess or working with computers, but it is what in a sense we are programmed to do as human beings, is to experience this full involvement with life.
Now, a great psychologist who influenced me in my early years was Abraham Maslow, who, like you, studied people of this sort, and he developed a notion, I think a little different. He talked about peak experiences that all of these people reported, but I gather that this is not the same as the flow state.
Well, I think that probably what Maslow was talking about, and by the way, he influenced me too. I was also a grad student when he started writing. This peak experience seems to be the most developed form of flow. I don't. I think though that one problem I had with the peak experience notion was that it seemed to come as a kind of epiphany out of the blue to people who are kind of prepared for it. And
almost mystical.
Yeah, right. Whereas what I saw these people doing, whom I was studying, is to develop slowly the ability to produce this experience through involvement with a particular activity. So it wasn't something mysterious or kind of chancy, but it was the result of one's own doing.
And you described flow in a way that struck me as paradoxical in this sense, that people who experience flow in their lives are often the happiest people. They're passionate and involved in their work, but happiness is not what they're even thinking about when they're engaged.
Exactly. No, suppose that you are a rock climber, and as you're climbing this very difficult rock, you start thinking how happy you are. You know, I mean, probably you will fall down, or you are singing a song or playing an instrument, and as you're playing, you say, "Oh, isn't this great?" You know, you would be missing the music. So you can't. When you're really involved, you don't have time to be happy. You cannot afford to be happy. It's afterwards when you look back and you say, "What was that about?" You know, I never felt so good. I never felt so part of life. You know, I was never so completely myself. And then you say, "Aha, that must be happiness." I mean, that's what I want.
It sounds like what you're saying is that being happy is very different from thinking about being happy.
Right. Those are two different moments of the process. Yeah.
And the people who are skilled at experiencing flow throughout their lives, you describe this, I think, as a skill that can be learned, and that is, it's not about seeking the thrill of the flow state. It's more about living your whole life holistically.
Well, yeah, there are people who do it by developing one or two skills at which they can. For instance, I don't know if you are an athlete or a you like to bicycle, so every weekend you go out, and as you tour the countryside, you feel this flow experience, and you go back refreshed. And
I've run a few marathons, actually.
Okay,
so
marathon is one. So you can do it this way, of having certain activities that will produce flow, and they become kind of the benchmarks of your life, and you look back on them, and they give the rest of your life a feeling of replenishment. You know, you are recreating yourself when you do those things. But the other possibility is to transform the kind of everyday routines of life, from brushing your teeth to cooking to washing dishes, into little works of art which have their own goals and their own rules, and then you know you don't need these peaks of these great moments of flow, but you can experience it throughout.
It sort of reminds me of the poetry of Walt Whitman, who seemed to find ecstasy in the most scratching